Kao the Kangaroo is finally back, a niche platformer who premiered on the Dreamcast and built a cult following. But how does this feisty fisticuffing kangaroo stand in today's market? Is it a knockout? Let's talk about it.
Whoa!
What's up guys, Canadian Guy here and back with my Kao the Kangaroo review. It's been a while since I decided to pick up a review copy of a game, and honestly, Kao was just too good to pass up on. Thank you so much to Tape Multimedia for sending over a review copy. I also want to make it clear that this will be a story spoiler-free review. Everything that I talk about has either already been seen in trailers, press releases, or is right at the beginning of the game. I also will be showing very little footage of the last world, as very little of it has been shown. I will also be stating that I played Kao on PC on Steam, just so that everyone is aware as to what kind of footage they are looking at. I also was able to play the game at 60 FPS and on ultra settings. Before we start, what exactly is this Kao the Kangaroo release? This was a big question that a lot of people had asked leading up to the release. Is it a remake, a remaster, or a reboot? Well, definitively, this is a reboot of the franchise. This version of the game has zero connection to the original games in terms of story. This is a completely new experience, so you do not have to play any previous Kao title to know what's going on. So for the rest of this video, if I say Kao the Kangaroo, I am referring to this specific game, unless I specify otherwise. We begin the game in a dream with Kao, where he is chasing after his sister, Kaya. A dark presence is following them, and Kao is trying to stop her from being taken. As Kao defeats this dark presence's minions, we see Kao's sister taken, and Kao wakes up from the dream. We learn that Kao's father, Kobe, has been missing for a while. Kao's father is a Grand Master on this island and mysteriously left without telling much to his family. After he has been gone for a while, Kaya went after him. She too then went missing. Kao feels that his recent dream was a sign of some sort and wants to try to go after them both. His mother tells him to at least go and see Walter, another Grand Master on the island, to speak with him in regards to the dream. Because, you know, after your husband and daughter go missing, why not just send your son too? What could go wrong? Kao arrives to Walter's dojo and finds what looks like a spirit of his sister. He follows the spirit to a chest that was buried. He opens the chest to find that his father's old boxing gloves were there. Walter, after beating up a bunch of frogs, warns Kao that the gloves were dangerous and should be put back to where he found them. Kao convinces Walter to at least try him out and to prove that he can use them. As time goes on, we discover the gloves are empowered by a being from the Eternal Realm, which essentially is a realm of darkness. The gloves grant access to the user to certain areas that typically would not be accessible to anyone else. Coincidentally, they also sound almost identical to Uka Uka from CTR.
Although, please try not to burn yourself, at least not too badly. It would be a shame for the fun to be over so soon.
Welcome to the adventure area. You can travel around this area and practice your driving skills.
After Kao proves that he can use the gloves, even through its darker influence, and after convincing his mother, Kao goes off to try to save his sister and father, with the help of Walter and the local tinkerer, Gadget. Kao the Kangaroo is, at its heart, an ode to classic platformer titles, from Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, Sly Cooper, Jak and Daxter, Donkey Kong, you name it, all wrapped up in a soft gradient Unreal package. Actually, I would argue that its biggest influence is the original Jak and Daxter, from the movement, combat, and even platforming. Kao can jump, double jump, ledge grab, rail grind, and roll. On top of that, Kao is given access to other abilities with the Eternal Gloves, like a rope swing and revealing platforms in the Eternal Realm. Think of the Eternal Realm kind of like the Lani Loli swapping effect from Crash Bandicoot 4, but in a much smaller area. The gloves also grants access to 3 elemental abilities: fire, ice, and later on in the game, wind. These elemental abilities allow Kao to get access to new areas that are typically blocked by different obstacles. The fire gloves can burn away wood and webbing, while also kickstarting platforms to start moving. The ice gloves freeze running water and can grant access to new areas. Lastly, the wind element pulls objects that you might need to get around the level. But here's the catch. To activate these elemental powers, you have to find these tokens that are spread out through the level. Once you grab one, and when you use it on an obstacle, it consumes the token, which means you would have to find another elemental token if you needed more. You can store and rotate up to 3 different elemental tokens at once. Now, Kao might have a bunch of different platforming abilities, but something interesting that this game brings to the table is that it has a simple yet fun combat system. Kao moves very quick, dashing, rolling, and knocking out groups of enemies with Fists of Fury. If Kao can chain a 5-ish hit combo without taking damage, Kao can kick in the slow-mo matrix action and do an AoE finisher. This is where the elemental gloves do come into play with a very minor role. If you have an elemental token equipped while doing a finisher, they can cause enemies to be affected by that element, like setting them on fire, or maybe freezing them. Again, the elemental gloves are more used for platforming and solving puzzles, but they do help Kao a little bit in terms of combat. Now, it wouldn't be an ode to platformers if there weren't collectibles. There are ducats, runes, gems, Kao letters, and pages. Ducats are a franchise staple. They are coins that are all over the overworld and in levels. Now, these are not like gems from Spyro, but more like coins in Sly Cooper. The coins refresh every time you leave a level, including the overworld, so don't think that you have to 100% the game by collecting every ducat. The ducats are used at the store to buy lives, heart containers, and outfits. These outfits range from different themes in the worlds that you explore to classic outfits and looks from previous Kao games. My personal favorite is the Kao 3 outfit. Runes are the main story collectibles, as in you cannot proceed through the story without them. Think of them like power cells from Jak and Daxter. As you find these runes in both the levels and in the main hub worlds, you can unlock access to other levels when you meet the required amount. Luckily, they are actually pretty easy to find and aren't super duper hidden. In fact, most of them are really hard to miss. Kao letters are just like the letters you would collect in Donkey Kong. They are hidden through the level and sometimes need a little extra exploring. They are quite fun to find and sometimes will help unlock outfits later in the game as well as an achievement. Pages are fun to find and collect. The game includes what's called a Kaopedia, basically explaining all the characters, enemies, collectibles, and other miscellaneous things. They are either hidden in the level or found by beating the snot out of enemies. The crystals are... there, I guess. I mean, they attribute to 100% of the game, so yeah! Speaking of levels, how the levels work in Kao are actually shockingly similar to Sly Cooper of all things. But not Sly Cooper 2 to 4, but Sly Cooper 1. While of course Sly Cooper didn't pioneer this idea, as Sly Cooper 1 was kind of similar to how Spyro worked when it came to hub worlds, it's the first thing I thought of as I looked at this game through the lens of it being an ode to platformers. There are 4 main homeworlds. In each homeworld, there are collectibles to find and levels to access. Once you reach the required amount of runes, you are granted access to more of the homeworld and of course the level. Once all the levels are complete, you fight against the boss of that world. Within the levels themselves, there are also challenge areas called Eternal Wells. They are nice little bonus challenges that allow you to find more crystals and ducats, but completing them is also counted to 100%ing the game and an achievement. Once you access these wells in certain hidden parts of the level, you can access them again in any hub world using the Eternal Well that resides there. It's a fun and nice little side challenge that breaks up the pace of the game. Before I get to my thoughts though, I want to mention that I did 100% the game. Not just once, but twice. I 100%ed every level. I've also unlocked every outfit, every Eternal Well, every crystal that I know of, and the game says I got 100%. So unless there is a secret collectible that goes beyond 100% like Spyro, I am fairly confident I am approaching all of you watching this video with complete competence in my opinion of this game. The first thing I want to say right off the top is that I very much enjoyed this game. I'm going to be talking about its positives and negatives. Sometimes people see my negatives and think I'm bashing the game. The reality is that, well, I'm brutally honest. I've burned many bridges in the game review side of things because of that. But know that I did enjoy this game very much, and it relieved a platforming itch that I've had for a while. First off, the game's aesthetic, design, and overall look is absolutely stunning. While it does take heavy influence from Crash and Spyro, it finds a way to make its own look that makes it stand out. The colors are bright, fun, and makes each level stand out on its own. While each level does follow a theme to the homeworlds that it's in, Tate Multimedia was able to make each level stand out on its own, in its own shockingly fun way. The levels are full of life and full of fun. There's trampolines, puzzles, collectibles, secrets, and they are all placed in fun different ways, but also not done to the extreme. Some levels don't have trampolines, some levels don't have puzzles. It gives each level their own time to shine. The actual level design itself is also fantastic. Beyond the actual look of the level, while the game is 3D and open, it has a linearity that naturally leads you to where you need to go, but also has many branching paths that encourages you to explore, but doesn't get you turned around and confused. There's also lots of secret collectibles that can actually be seen on the main path of the level, but the actual path to that collectible is hidden, encouraging you to explore more of the level to try and find it, which I actually really like. To top it all off, the combat, albeit simple, is sharp and clean. Being able to dash enemy to enemy, feeding them knuckle sandwiches and sending them to Nighty Night Land feels really good. KO feels powerful and quick and quite fun. KO can also ground smash, use his tail for aerial combos, and roll through enemies and use it to transition or reposition in fights. The character design as well is also well done. KO himself is cute, feisty, naive, and sassy. His character is fun and enjoyable and can even be relatable at times. KO's sister, Kaya, is also a really nicely designed character. And KO's dad, the Chaticus that he is well done. Overall, the game has solid foundations. Everything is there. Everything a platforming fan wants to see. However, there are a few major issues with the game. Two of them specifically that I constantly encountered, and both of them simply comes down to the exact same issue, and that issue is polish. I expressed my concerns about this in my previous video while I was playing the PAX East demo. When I found out the release date of the game, the first thing I felt was nervousness, as when I was playing the game, I was encountering numerous minor bugs. Not major bugs, but little annoying things, like glitchy spawning, odd physics, clipping, etc, etc. I was hoping that those bugs would and could have been ironed out, but sadly, that is not exactly the case. Again, minor, silly, tiny bugs are all over the place. Any of these bugs on their own, I wouldn't even mention in a review. Not a single one. But sadly, because it happens so often, it definitely can get annoying. But there is one bug and issue that I really hate. One bug that happened quite a bit, and every time it happened, it drove me nuts. And that was missing sound and sound effects. This was such a major mood kill at times. KO would be doing something awesome, and the sound effects would just not be there, making the impact of that moment just fall flat. But then there are other times, like in cinematics, where background audio would just start clipping in and be obnoxiously loud. So loud, in fact, that you can barely hear a thing, which is also very frustrating. Here is a few unedited clips of what I mean.
Ooh, what was it? What?
Also, take a look at the checkpoint bells. When I started the game, they had their classic sound effect, but as I progressed, the bell sound just changed into the main menu select sound effect? The worst part is, it stayed like that for the rest of the game and still is there today. And here's the worst part. When I restarted the game for my 12-hour stream, the sound actually reset back to the normal bell sound. But as soon as I got to the Durian Valley, to follow up, music sometimes would just stop in the middle of the level, even in the middle of boss fights, which kinda kills the mood. I know soundtrack stopping is a bug that's common in games, but for the soundtrack to die in such key moments is such a bummer. Another factor that also really bums me out, again, falls upon the concept of polish. There are some brutal animations. Now, due to my previous work background, I do get picky with this stuff, but I'm not just talking about stiff lip flap and lip sync or expressions having really stiff transitions. This game has that, but there are moments that are just, here, just look. What? Again, this just feels bad. It hurts because the foundation of this game is so strong and so good, and these little bugs and moments take away from this strong foundation. Now, of course, these things can be fixed through patches and updates, which is great, but it still sucks that a lot of people day one are going to have to deal with this. Besides the bugs though, which is my biggest issue, the rest of my critiques and issues are a bit more nitpicky. Just about all of KO's combat moves are unlocked right at the start of the game. While we learn new elementals that affect the gloves that grant some new interactions, I wish that we could have unlocked more combat moves as we progress through the game. Also, I wish that it would take a bit longer to get KO's finisher bar to fill up, as right now you can get almost 3 finishers off in one engagement and it makes the fight super easy. Or give it a longer cooldown so that you have to choose when you get to use a finisher, and then there is a grace period that you have to wait before it starts to fill up again. I also wish that once we finish a level, we could unlock some sort of a mini-map for the level with map fog. Some of these levels can take up to 30 minutes to complete for a 100% run, and if you have to revisit a level and are looking for one silly little thing, like a crystal, being able to see where you've already been would be nice. All in all though, the core game in itself is a great time. I do think as a comeback from a small studio, and it being a budget game right off the hop, Kao the Kangaroo is a strong restart to a franchise that will hopefully be sticking around for a while. If you love platformers like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, Sly Cooper, and especially the very first Jak and Daxter, then I do recommend to give this game a shot. If small bugs bother you a lot, then maybe pick it up in a month or two after Tate Multimedia hopefully patches some of the issues. Thank you once again to Tate for sending me over this review code, and I hope that you enjoyed this review.